Okay, now we're going to explore the transmission in the medium duty to heavy duty Dodge trucks and also the Chevy trucks. This is a NV4500. It is the company name is New Venture NV4500. That was a conglomerate between Chrysler Corporation and General Motors that formed a transmission company to make these for the light duty, the 1 ton, 3/4 ton diesel trucks. Uh, so what we have here is the old famous fifth gear, losing fifth gear. So the first time it ever happened, the old deer in the headlight look. The shifter jumps out of your hand or whatever. It free wheel spins, RPM goes crazy and just goes into neutral. Seems like. But what happens is uh, we have a nut right here. This is the famous nut that comes off of the fifth gear. Uh, what we have, uh, some people will agree that years of wear, if you lug it in fifth gear a lot, if you're pulling heavy loads in fifth gear, you get a lot of stress on this small fifth gear right here. Right here is fifth gear. You got first, second, third, fourth. That's the input shaft gear. So we'll get into that later. No problem there. Uh, Here's the fifth counter gear. Here's the counter gear that runs off of the cluster gear. The cluster gear. So when you pull it in the fourth, you're actually pulling it back here on the counter gear that runs this small fifth gear that turns the drive shaft, the main shaft. So what happens over a period of time, you have wear, and that some folks will agree that it's the chatter that's inside splines on the inside of this gear in this shaft that become worn. Then you get a chatter, and they say that's what they think spins this nut off, or gets the nut rocking, and then the nut will spin off. That's the first time it happened. This is simple as this. And what's good about it, everything here from reverse and 4 forward gears is in the inside of the casing, this inside casing here. On the tail shaft, this is where it jumps out here. You got a bearing here, and this is segregated into the tail housing. So really what happens is the gear spins off, or the nut spins off, let's say, and then lift fifth gear. This gear will just actually kick this gear back. So it's just dangling back here, just dangling. Just in neutral. Only you go home in fourth gear. No damage really to anything. That's just dangling. So here's and I am showing you the upgrade kit that I did go to the first time it happened to me. Okay, here is why some folks will say that initially happened. Here is my original gear, original shaft. Okay, what you have here, see the splines right here? These splines right here, that's the same as that. This is about 3/4 of an inch, and that gear is about 2 inches long. So the factory gear, the inside splines only, it can only engage on the inside of the splines just 3/4 of an inch of that whole 2-inch gear design. So that does not make sense for 3/4 of an inch of a spline to be running a 2-inch gear. So when they made the upgrade kit, here's what they did. They just created a new fifth gear. They didn't really do a change to it, same width. But they did spline the shaft the whole distance of the fifth gear. Makes sense. Then what they did on the upgrade nut kit, we're going to switch the factory nut, which is nothing but just a nut. And actually what they do, they ping it right there with the hammer on a little part right here that looks like it's a keyway, but they ping it, but that don't hold. So here is the new upgraded nut, and you can see the set screw here. It's got 2 set screws. So what you do, you use the new upgraded shaft, and then we put our upgraded nut on there, spin it up on, tighten it as tight as you can get it. I mean as tight. Now I did leave my washer off. Now what I'm going to show you before I put this on, we have an undercut. There's an undercut right here, unlike you have on the factory shaft. And here is 2 half moon washers, and then another retainer ring that the upgraded, the folks that designed it, we designed it, they designed it to go here. So actually, if it backed off a hair, you still are undercut, and so to speak, the thinking was that would help secure it. What happened when I lost fifth gear with the upgrade kit, that became just like that. That became shrapnel inside the transmission. So that does more damage trying to keep the gear on, which a lot of analysts or folks will tell you that you're not going to keep the gear on due to the vibration of the diesel and the harmonics, throughout the whole drivetrain. So, choose your poison. Do you want the upgrade kit and secure the nut? And what happened the last time when this came off? The nut did come off. I say 20,000 miles, it came off. So this counter gear could not spin the gear off. It did not spin the gear off. It come halfway off, and it was still engaged in your counter gear that drives it, and that created the damage on the outside ring of the gear and the inside ring of the fifth gear, and then along with the retainer rings that become shrapnel or loose metal inside the transmission. So actually, I had to pull everything apart, clean every part, clean every gear, and replacing 2 gears, counter gear fifth and fifth main gear. So what is the fix? Here is my remedy. I don't have a remedy. Here's my next try. I'm going to put my fifth gear on my new one that engages better than that with losing some spline engagement. Then here is a scenario. We can go with the, I would use normally the washer that we're going to put right here, this concave washer. I'd go ahead and use my factory concave washer. It does not go down in the undercut though. So we're going to screw that on, and then here is a possible new scenario. I'm sure some folks maybe out there have tried it. These transmissions lasted for about early 90s to late 90s, early 2000. So they're widespread. They're out there. They're still being used. Everything's good up inside the case. I like the transmission. It's heavy, but we just have that one fifth gear problem. So see what I've done right here. I've got the 2 locking nuts. So it's my choice of what I want to do. If I want to go ahead and lock down my little set screws on my upgrade nut and then use my factory nut, and I could go back here and tap into the little keyway right there, and naturally I'm going to put a punch right here, a hammer, and put these nuts as tight as I can get them, and hope for the best. So along with the repair, when you get the loose shrapnel in there, you do get into your bearings, fifth gear, counter gear bearing. I've got my cluster gear. I'm putting the bearings on, front cluster, rear cluster, main input shaft bearings. So you can cause more damage when you get loose metal in the transmission. It's not it's not worth it to take the chance and have it just putting the gear back on and putting it back up with the debris and all in there. So anyway, that's what we have on the NV4500 trans, and I'm all ears if you have any suggestions, or contact me, and we'll get these things fixed. Recognize him? Over.